In today's lecture of operating system, we'll study operating system structures. We'll study different important functions of operating system. And at the end of lecture, we will discuss some different environments for operating system. So let us start with Uni Programming and multi-programming. What is Uni Programming? Any job or task which has to be executed or run by the CPU must be present in the main memory. According to system structure, whenever a user executes a computing job or whenever user executes some computer program, that computer programs or that computer jobs must be brought into computer memory for execution. Because CPU fetch data and instructions from main memory for execution. And if there is only one job in computer memory, and there can be only one job in computer memory, and this structure or this system is known as uniprogramming. Simply it means that in uniprogramming there will only one job in computer memory, and no other job will be entertained by the computer memory until the first job is completed. Then the other job can be loaded into computer memory for execution. And all available resources are provided to the single program that is present in the memory at that time. In uniprogramming, there is only one job to execute, and all available resources are provided to that job, and that one and only one job executes on the CPU and utilize all the available resources. Here you can see the memory layout for uniprogramming system. Whenever we switch on the computer, operating system will be loaded by default in computer memory, and here you can see a user job, one and only user job that is loaded in the computer memory, and it has occupied all the computer memory. This concept of single program in computer memory is known as uniprogramming. Multiprogramming. Why the multiprogramming is required? Multiprogramming is required because a single user cannot keep CPU and I/O devices busy at all times. If we have only one job in computer memory for execution, and we have many important resources like CPU, which is the most important resource, we have other resources like I/O devices are the resources, and some important files are resources. And if there is only one job in computer memory, then most of the time our most important resource, that is CPU, will remain idle. How CPU will remain idle? Because whenever a job switch from CPU to I/O devices to perform any I/O operation, CPU has nothing to process. CPU has nothing to execute. And it's the time of multiprogramming. It's where multiprogramming is required. And in a multiprogramming system, there are one or more programs loaded in main memory which are ready to execute. And in multiprogramming concept or multiprogramming systems, there will be more than one jobs available in computer memory, and those all jobs will be ready for execution. But only one program at a time is able to get the CPU for execution its instructions. Rest of all jobs will be kept in computer memory and will be waiting for their turn for execution. And multiprogramming organizes job. Job means code plus data. So CPU always has one to execute. In multiprogramming environment, in multiprogramming systems, many jobs are placed in the computer memory. So we can utilize the CPU effectively. We can utilize the resources effectively. And the subset of total jobs in system is kept in computer memory, one job selected and run via job scheduling. And job scheduling is that component of operating system that will select which job should be executed on the CPU. Because in multi-programming systems there are many jobs that are ready for execution. So which job should be executed, it will be selected by the job scheduler. So when it has to wait for an IO, for example, operating system switch to another job. So when one job leaves the CPU and goes for the IO operation and use the IO devices, meanwhile operating system selects a job from the job queue and allocate it to the CPU. Here you can see the memory layout of multi-programming system. Operating system that will be loaded by default in computer memory, and after operating system, here you can see there are many jobs that are loaded into computer memory. Here is job number 1, job number 2, job number 3, and so on. There will be many jobs in multi-programming environment, in multi-programming systems, and one job will be selected for execution, and there will be the job scheduler component that will select one job for execution. And when one job will leaves the CPU and goes for the IO operations, the other job will be allocated to the CPU from the remaining jobs. This is the memory layout of multi-programming system. Next is the important functions of operating system. First important function is process management. What is a process? A process is a program in execution. It's a unit of work within the system. And program is a passive entity, process is an active entity. Program is a passive entity because program itself does not execute. Program itself does not run on the CPU. Program is actually stored in the form of file on the secondary storage devices. And when we execute a computer program, it will create so many processes. And these are the processes that will be executed on the CPU. So what is a process? Process is a small unit of activity. Process is a small unit of work that will be performed by the CPU. And when we execute process must need different type of resources. Process must need different type of resources to accomplish its task. For example, process needs CPU and process utilize CPU for execution. Process needs memory to load data and instructions in computer memory. Process also needs input output devices to perform different input and output operations. And process also needs some sort of data files. And typically in a system there may be many processes, and these processes will be user processes or system processes. System processes are those type of processes that are initiated by the operating system, that are created by the operating system. And user process means those processes that are created by the user programs. And these all programs or these all processes are executed on the CPU concurrently. Process management activities. Operating system is responsible for the following activities in connection with process management. So operating system perform these activities regarding process management on the computer. First activity is creating and deleting both user and system processes. System process and user process, both process are created by the operating system. And whenever a process completes its execution and performs its task, and after that process is deleted, and operating system also creates the process as well as deletes the process. And the operating system suspending and resuming process. Operating system also provide mechanism for process synchronization and process communication. Different process needs synchronization and communication for smooth operations of a program. That's why operating system provide certain mechanisms for processes to communicate or to exchange information and to synchronize with each other. Process also provide mechanism for deadlock handling. Deadlock is a situation in computer system where multiple process involve in a situation where no process can occupy the resources or no process can complete its execution. That situation is called deadlock. There is a complete chapter in your course regarding deadlock, and we will discuss deadlock and deadlock handling methods in detail in next chapters. Memory management. It's the second important function of operating system to manage the computer memory. As we have discussed that if we want to execute a computer program, if we want to execute a job, a user job on the computer, then we must load the data and instructions in computer memory for execution. And all or some data should be brought into the computer memory for execution. And here the memory management is required because as CPU is the important resource, memory is also the important resource, and especially in a multi-programming system. When we have many programs that will be loaded into the computer memory and we have a limited computer memory, limited space available in computer memory that should be utilized by the operating system and that will be distributed among different processes. What memory management activities are performed by the operating system? It's operating system who keep track of which parts of memory are currently being used and by whom. Operating system allocates memory segments between different processes. It's operating system who allocates and deallocates memory segments to different processes. And operating system not only allocates or deallocates the memory segments, it also keep record that which memory segments are currently being utilized by which processes. And it's operating system who decide which process and which data should be brought into the computer memory and which data should be bring out of the memory, because this swap in and swap out operation is continuously required in multi-programming environment. When there are many programs that are in memory and ready for execution, so there must be need of allocation and deallocation, and there must be continuously need of moving data into computer memory and moving data out of computer memory. So it will be operating system who will perform this memory management activities. Storage management. Operating system provides a uniform and logical view of information storage. When we store data or information on computer, and then this data and information is stored on the secondary storage devices in the form of binary information, in the form of binary language. But when we access this data and information from the computer, operating system provide us the logical view of this data and information in the form of a file. Actually, when we open a file, this file is the logical view of information. This file is the logical view of data. And it's operating system who will provide this logical view of information, who will create this logical view of information or data for the user. File system management. Files then usually organized into directories, and then for file management operating system also provides directory structure like folder hierarchy or folder structures. Files are organized into directories. Files are organized into folders, and there is a folder hierarchy. As you know that you can create folders into the folders and folder within another folders. access control on most systems to determine who can access what. And operating system also provide access control mechanism on these file system management activities. Operating system also provide access control on this logical view of information on these files and directories. What activities operating system performed? Operating system provide mechanism for creating and deleting files and directories. Operating system provide mechanism for mapping files onto secondary storage devices. And similarly, operating system also provide a mechanism for creating backup files. Mass storage management, it's another function of operating system. Usually, disks used to store data that does not fit in main memory or data that must be kept for a long period of time. When we store data for the long period of time and when we store data for later use, when we want to use some computer program, we store these computer programs on secondary storage devices. We store our permanent data on secondary storage devices or mass storage devices. So it's usually disks that are used to store these type of data or these type of programs that will be required in long run or later time. So operating system also manage these secondary storage devices, and management of these secondary storage devices is equally important, as we have seen that memory management is important. As memory management is important, mass storage management is equally important, because entire speed of computers operating hangs on disk subsystem and its algorithms. So if mass storage devices will not be managed properly, it will affect the overall speed of computer system. What activities operating system performed regarding mass management? Operating system manage free space on the secondary storage devices. Operating system allocate and deallocate mass storage devices. And operating system also perform disk scheduling between different processes. Next function of operating system is protection and security. What is protection? Protection is actually a mechanism, the mechanism that is used for controlling access of processes or users to resources defined by the operating system. There are many resources that are defined by the operating system, and these resources are utilized by the processes or by the users, and operating system then provide a protection mechanism. That protection mechanism is used to control the access of users and control the access of processes for these resources. And security, it's the defense of the system against internal and external attacks. As you know that computers are subjects to attacks, and there are many type of attacks, internal attacks and external attacks. Like these attacks may include denial of service attacks, worms and viruses, and identity theft attacks. So operating system generally first distinguish among users that which user can perform which function. This is a general security mechanism that is applied by the operating system. And operating system also provide user identification system to providing user IDs or security IDs, and that user IDs or security IDs include name of the user and associated number with the user as user credentials like username and user passwords. And we use these usernames and user passwords to access the resources of the system. We use this username and password basic credentials to get into the computer system, to log into the computer system. This is the protection and security mechanism provided by the operating system. So far we have discussed operating system structure, operating system functions, and now we will discuss different computing environments and operating systems used in these environments. First environment is the most common environment known as traditional computing environment. In traditional computing environment, mostly computers used as an standalone general purpose machines. Standalone computers means those computers that are not connected to any network or not connected to the internet. But this environment is blurring out as most systems are interconnected these days with other networks or internet. And companies also using like web services like portals, and portals those provide web access to their internal systems and their internal servers. And then there are network computers and thin clients like web terminals. These network computers and thin clients are used to access web resources, and mobile computers interconnected via wireless networks, and networking becoming ubiquitous. As networking becoming available everywhere, so traditional environment of computing in which standalone computers were used is blurring out. And you will be most familiar with the operating systems used in traditional computing environment. Operating systems like Windows operating system, Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 10 operating systems, and other operating systems that are being used in these type of environment. Next environment is a mobile computing environment. In mobile computing environment, mobile handheld devices are used. Handheld devices like smartphones, like tablets, and other smart computers. And these devices have some different features. And these devices required a different type of operating system with different features. And these devices also required different types of softwares, new types of apps, and operating system used for these environments are Apple iOS and Google Android. And as you know, Apple iOS is used on Apple products like on Apple phone and Apple iPad. And Google Android is used by many vendors for their handheld devices and smartphones and tablets. Another popular computing environment is distributed computing environment. Distributed computing environment is an environment in which there are multiple computers, there are a collection of separate computers, and these computers are possibly heterogeneous. Heterogeneous means different computers, different in prospect of operating system, different in prospect of their architecture, different in respect to their structures. And distributed computing, heterogeneous computers are connected to each other through a network. And in distributed computing, these heterogeneous computers are used to perform a single computer job or a single computer program. And these distributed computings provide an illusion of a single system. And then different type of networks. These networks are used in distributed computing. And protocols TCP/IP is the most common protocol that is used in computer networks. And operating system also provide their support regarding network communication and regarding protocols. And mostly operating systems support TCP/IP protocol. Network distinguished between one another, like local area network, it's a limited area network that connects computers within a limited area, a limited building. then wide area network, metropolitan area network, personal area network. And there is a network operating system. Network operating system that provides features between systems across networks. Network operating system is an operating system that is designed to be used for a network environment. Client-server computing environment is perhaps the most simple and most familiar computing environment. In client-server computing environment, some computers act as a server computers, and server computers provide services to other computers, and those computers are called client computers. Server computers respond to the request, and requests are generated by the client computers. And server computers provide different type of services like database services, like file services, like print services, and those computers that are dedicated for these services are called server computers. So, which computer is responsible for providing database services will be called database server. And the computer that will be responsible for providing an interface to clients to store and retrieve files and access data and information will be called file server. And similarly, the computer that will be responsible for printing to the client computers will be called a print server computer. And the operating system that will be used in this environment will be a specially designed operating system. Operating system used on server machines or server computers that will be quite capable to provide services to the clients. Next environment is a peer-to-peer environment, and peer-to-peer environment is an environment in which all computers are considered equal. And it's another model of distributed systems. In peer-to-peer models, every computer can be a server computer or every computer can be a client computer. When a computer provides services to other computers, then that computer will be called as a server computer. And when the computer receives services from the other computers or requests services to other computer, then this computer will be called as a client computer. And that's why this model of computing or this computing environment is called peer-to-peer computing. Cloud computing. In simple words, cloud computing means storing and accessing your data over the internet. And it's just not about storing and accessing data. Even apps can be used as a service across the network. And the most popular service is Amazon EC2 service of cloud computing. Amazon EC2 has thousands of servers, millions of virtual machines, and petabytes of storage available across the internet. And there are many types of cloud computing, two types mentioned here, like public cloud and private cloud. Public cloud available via internet to anyone who is willing to pay. Any business organization, any individual can use public cloud, and just one has to pay for the services or for the computing resources one willing to use. And in private cloud, it is done by a company for the company's own purpose and company's own use. Real-time embedded systems. Embedded means something is embedded into a computer. Something is embedded into a machine. In simple words, software is embedded into a computer system. Software is embedded into a machine. Operating system is embedded into a machine. Operating system is embedded into a computer. And like microwave oven in your kitchen is an example of embedded system. Automatic washing machine is an example of embedded system. And there are many devices like medical devices that are embedded systems. And embedded systems are those type of system that are considered as special purpose systems and limited purpose systems. Special purpose systems and limited purpose systems because these systems perform special operations, and these operations are very limited that are performed by the embedded systems. And embedded systems use real-time operating systems. A real-time operating system are those type of operating system that has well-defined fixed time constraints. Operating system has to perform their functions within a limited time. Operating system must perform its processing within given constraints, and correct operations considered only if the certain constraints are met. And last environment is open source operating system environment. In open source operating system environment, there are the operating system that made available in source code format rather than just binary closed source. Some operating system provide closed source format operating system like Windows XP, Windows 7, Windows 8 or other Windows operating system are closed source operating system, and some operating system are open source operating systems. Open source operating system are those operating system that provide their source code. For example, GNU Linux is the most popular open source operating system, and BSD Unix is another example of open source operating system. And in open source operating system, there is a community of interested programmers, and those programmers contribute to the code by helping and debugging and analyzing it and providing also support.